Okay, it's 2:01 by my clock, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm recording this. This is the first Zoom meeting I've recorded, so hopefully I can find the recording afterwards. My name is Tamara Ogle. I am with Purdue Extension. I'm a community development regional educator. And as part of our response or resources that we're offering local governments in the or during this COVID-19 pandemic, we wanted to talk about the census because I know a lot of communities had planned promotion for their census, and those plans may have involved some face-to-face or handing out physical materials, and now we've had some restrictions with social distancing and the stay-at-home order in the state. So I wanted to invite some partnership specialists with the Census Bureau. So today we have with us Nicholas Elliott and Heather Maddox, both out of the Chicago office. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about how the census is rolling out. And some of those things will be changes in response to the pandemic, but some of that is just general information. And also a little bit about how we might be better about promoting that census through virtual means or through different ways now that things have changed a little bit. So I'm going to hand things over to Nicholas.
Tamara, thanks so much. I do want to say, I appreciate everybody's flexibility, and the world has certainly just adapted quickly to, what needs to continue moving. And so I'm just grateful that we're able to still, be employed and still move forward with the critical work that we're doing. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. I did want to get a sense of what experience and involvement the folks on the call had with the census. I know that several of you, if not all of you, have already committed to doing something in your communities or with your organizations that you represent. So if there's any way to kind of do a quick round robin in terms of who's involved and what they're involved in terms of what community they're involved with, or is this their first time hearing about the census? My hunch is it's not. So in order to really sense the next few minutes of our conversation, I want to make sure I know what everybody's kind of been involved with. Is that something we could do, Tamara?
Yeah, so you have some people, if you go down to the bottom and click on chat, you have some people that are typing into the chat box right now. And I would also, we're a small group today, so feel free to unmute yourself and share if you're more comfortable doing that.
So perhaps, if anybody wants to volunteer to offer what they're doing to promote the census in their community or with their department or program, that would be a fantastic way to start. Because I don't want to start at the elementary level if you guys have already, gone on to grad school. So there's no sense of us revisiting all of the foundational pieces.
So Nicholas, Cindy says that she is a complete committee chair locally. Joanne Linton is an extension educator. She's been using information in her family newsletters. We have a community wellness coordinator through Purdue Extension, another extension educator that's on the Complete Counts Committee. GCP, which I'm not sure what that stands for, is placing notices in their utility bills and putting information on the city website. And Karen Heim says this is her first time around with the census as a clerk treasurer for a town. And Doug is with us, or is working through Kokomo Library, City Hall, and HUD, and has partnered to hold events, maybe, and to help publicize across all social media platforms.
Great. And that's certainly what I anticipated. I didn't anticipate we didn't necessarily revisit the constitutional mandate and all that stuff. But, one of the things that we do stress is we are from an 8-state region out of Chicago. It's important that you know that, because each region is going to handle, the response differently in terms of how we're coordinating efforts. So this may not be, obviously the census is a national endeavor. It is constitutionally mandated every 10 years. You all know that, but the Chicago region is taking strides in different ways than the other regions across the United States. Obviously, we're all responding to the public health crisis that we're experiencing, all operating underneath headquarters, which is out of Sweetland, Maryland. Director Dillingham, and then our local regional director out of the Chicago region is Marilyn Sanders. Since that many of you have already been involved with this presentation, I'll just reiterate that she is grateful for your partnerships and everything that you've been doing to promote the census. It doesn't go unnoticed. A lot of the the tireless hours and extra manpower that you've put in place to make sure the census is successful. We just want to say thank you, on behalf of Marilyn Sanders for everything you've done. And it is important that you remember, as your community is hearing about the census and seeing it maybe as a less of a priority in kind of vis-a-vis the public health crisis with COVID-19, it is important that you remind them not only is it constitutionally mandated, but it is safe and secure, and we hold this information confidential. So while you've probably heard that message again, it's always a great place to start, just because we want to make sure that everybody has the same talking points, especially as you're dispelling some of the potential misinformation that the community might bring up as a result. We still have a constitutionally mandated deadline of December 31st of 2020 to submit the aggregated data to the president. So that's still a deadline that we intend on meeting. The public health crisis is certainly going to put some, influence into how each of the, daily tasks and operational tasks go into play, but we still have that constitutionally mandated deadline of December 31st. So that's important to reiterate. We do have an updated, let's see if I can find it here, an updated press release that did just go out. And here, I'm going to send this out with the call today. But there have been some adjustments made to our timeline because of COVID-19. So I'm going to walk you through that. Has anybody on the call already seen this document? Okay. So we will just walk through this briefly here. We did have a lot of operations that are obviously unfolding, with April 1st coming up in just a couple of days. That's still going to be Census Day. That's not going to change. That's actually in the Constitution. So we will still mandate that that day be determined as Census Day. But some of the operations associated with that day are obviously going to be pushed back to adjust accordingly. So the self-response phase, this is kind of our initial adjustment. Was the self-response phase initially was March 12th through July 31st. We have revised that to end August 14th. So as you can see, that's the 2-week extension there. There are several operations that are associated as well with update leave and update enumerate. Those are kind of contingent on address, locations, and different areas of the United States. In Indiana, we have very few of these update leave and update enumerate locations. They're determined by census tracts, as well as access to different things like internet and mail usage, whether or not the residents may be, or the group of domiciles may be in a reservation or in a remote or rural area. That's how we adjust those phases of the operation. Those have also been delayed, as you can see, by 2 weeks. We can always drill down into some of those pieces if anybody wants or has questions. There is an operation called Mobile Questionnaire Assistance, and this is new for 2020. This was intended on, and I imagine many of you have heard of this, but it's intended on getting out into the community to help individuals respond on site. So we would assist partners in identifying public access areas, whether they be events or whether they just have computers and public gathering space, and that would allow for individuals to respond on site. We intend on deploying staff to help with those wherever determined as a high risk area of not responding. So looking at the threshold of 20 to 30% in terms of a low response, and deploying those staff to help groups of people respond on site. Those will still be carried out, but they will be delayed. At this point, we're looking at the start of those being April 13th, and that's according to our press release that you're looking at right now. The next phase is early non-response follow-up, which is also going to be pushed back about 2 weeks there. And actually, this is a little bit longer. This goes from April 9th to May 7th. And so that one is, they're going to go ahead and reach out to colleges and universities that haven't responded. This might affect your populations as well, but those are being pushed back to May 7th. Again, this is according to the most up-to-date press release we have. Then non-response follow-up, which is where we will deploy the massive amount of staff that we've just hired and are still in the process of training. Of course, that's on hold because of the public health crisis. That one will start on May 28th, and that was the delay from May 13th. Group quotas enumeration, that's one that we've been conducting advanced contact for since February. That one's going to be delayed at this point up to 2 weeks, and I apologize. You can hear my young toddler upstairs. We have a very old house, so we don't have much insulation here. And then service-based enumeration will go from March 30th to April 29th. That is where we would be deploying our staff to go out and count individuals experiencing homelessness in group homes and shelters, things of that sort. Very similar if you're familiar with the point-in-time count. And again, this is probably reiteration for a lot of you that have been privy to the census operation so far. But that will be delayed roughly at this point up to a month. And then, and it's kind of continuing on to the next page, is where we're looking at counting individuals experiencing homelessness and those in transitory locations like RV parks and campgrounds. But as you can see, the one that's following that is the delivery of the apportionment counts to the president by December 31st. That does not change, nor does the subsequent date, which would be the redistricting counts to the states by April 1st of 2021. So I wanted to make sure you all had a sense of how the operations have adjusted according to what we're facing as a nation. Obviously, these are the most recent that we have, and there may be updates coming at a later date. So that's where we are with the operational updates. Does anybody have any questions as it relates to anything I just shared? And Tamara, I cannot see the chat box. I don't know if is that a user error, but I don't see any chat coming in.
I'm not sure. It should be at the bottom if you mouse over the bottom of your screen, but I can also watch it and read things to you if I see something pop up.
That'd be great. Thanks. So if there are no questions, I do want to share a little bit about how invitations are going out. You may have already seen this information, but we are currently in the third phase of the communication platform that we have within our initial outline. So I'm going to walk you through what our initial outline is from this screen here, and so you can see what the direct mail calendar looks like, because this one will help us kind of talk about what phase we're in right now. And I apologize, I'm just going to kind of jump through here. Here we are. So March 12th through the 20th was the first invitations that went out. On March 12th, the online my2020census.gov, which was the actual online response portal, went live on March 12th, actually before March 12th. And subsequent to that, the phone lines also went live. So March 16th through the 24th, there was a reminder letter sent out. March 26th through the April 3rd, which is the date frame that we're in now. We are sending out reminder postcards. The fourth mailer will be the reminder letter and the paper questionnaire. In some communities that have a higher concentration of Spanish-speaking individuals, they will receive bilingual invitations and questionnaires to their address. One of the things to reiterate, and again, this is not probably new to you all, is the fact that it does say resident. It does not say household name or name of individual living there. I'm going to pull up a couple of invitations just so we can walk through them. This is the one that will actually be in people's mailbox starting March 12th. And so this is what you should have seen. I imagine most of you, if not all of you, have already responded to the census, being good census partners that you are. But if you haven't, this is the first mailer that you should have seen come through your house. And you obviously have the URL there under option 1. And then you can, it actually says here that you can fill out the questionnaire, but that's not actually, that's new. So there shouldn't have been a questionnaire on the first mailer. However, this is what it would look like when it comes to your house. It will come in an official US Census government sealed envelope. This is the second one. This one talks a little bit about the instructions. This should have been the second one that you received. It's sort of a reminder letter. The third one here, which will be coming, excuse me, that's not the third one. Well, you get the gist. I think I can find the third one here. I think this is actually the fourth one, excuse me. The fourth one would be something similar to this. April 8th is the fourth one. So this is what the fourth one would look like. and it's just a reminder, and then inside of it should be the actual paper questionnaire. The fifth one will just be a reminder postcard. Obviously, we will be adjusting our timeline to deploy the non-response follow-up individuals to go out and count. Those are the folks that will be knocking on doors. So the mentioned that in the direct mail calendar, there would be, subsequent to the fifth mailer, there would actually be individuals deployed to go out to the communities to count those that haven't been counted. We will be adjusting that accordingly, from our, what we just talked about here, which was going to be, and I'm just going to go back, this is all new to us too. May 28th, it was originally May 13th, but we've adjusted that just by a couple weeks there. So those are the invitations. This is the timeline. One of the things that we are stressing to our partners across the United States is really what formats and audience do you still have with your constituents in your community that would be able to kind of adjust accordingly and be virtual formats for these people to receive information about the census, as well as encouragement, such as like a virtual town hall or even an e-learning environment for children. We have been working with food banks and meal distribution sites to try and get, reminder postcards out to those families that are receiving those. Social media is certainly probably seen a skyrocket in popularity lately because of everybody being stuck at home. So those are great avenues to remind individuals to respond to the census. And we have a couple of handouts and messaging that I can kind of walk you through. But I do want to just see if there's any questions before we continue with today's conversation. Or Heather, if you want to add anything that I may have missed. Did I lose you all?
No, Nicholas, I'm not seeing any questions come through the chat box.
Okay. So this is probably all revisit. Most of you have probably already seen the operational updates, but I just want to make sure that we at least start there, because I think a lot of what we talk about now really needs to be, well, what does that mean for the support that we've already provided? We do want to reiterate that the census can be responded to in 13 languages directly, besides 12 languages besides English. And I do want to make sure you have those numbers that you can call. Obviously, you can go online to respond. That's our preferred method, because it's going to allow for a lot of automated responses to be tallied. But obviously, not everybody has internet access. So I do want to show you the questionnaire assistance lines, which are going to be different for each language. These are 1-800 numbers, and we've had several colleagues that have submitted their census this way, as well as partners that I've talked to. And especially for seniors, a lot of times the senior community may find this a little bit easier than going online, especially if they don't have internet access at home or a smartphone to be able to respond to the census. The phone is an easy way to respond, and it takes about the same amount of time. These are the numbers. I will send these out subsequent to our call as well, so you have them. But they're all different for the 13 languages, 12 besides English. We do have accessibility adaptations for the census as well. I will send out an accessible document that kind of walks partners through how to promote awareness and engagement with, accessible formats of the census questionnaire, whether they be in Braille, TDD, TDY, those sorts of formats, and how do we make sure that those folks experiencing disabilities also have every option to respond to the census. The last thing that I will talk to you about in terms of the handouts, and these are all going to go out as well with the email that I send out after this call, is we have for 2020 developed a trust and safety team, which is really about protecting the confidentiality and integrity of the census operations for 2020 and beyond. And because we are using a digital format in a platform for our count in 2020, and this is the first time that we're doing that, we had to make sure that we had both cybersecurity, risk mitigation, but also what to do if people are hearing rumors or scams or there's suspicious emails and people, trying to use the census logo in a fraudulent way. So this is a great article or a great overview of what the trust and safety team is all about. There's a whole set-aside operational team that will handle these types of issues that may be arising in your communications with your community. And, such as a rumor, if you see suspicious information on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., if there's an email coming through, if somebody's calling you pretending to be with the census, but it doesn't sound legitimate, or if you see census workers out in the community before those timelines that I talked about, there's often, oftentimes that's a chance for us to just verify that, yes, that is a census employee. It is important that you feel comfortable, especially as a community leader promoting your census partnership. We want to make sure you know exactly how to assure the public that this is legitimate and this is safe and secure. These are the ways that you can respond or report suspicious activity down here. There's a whole operational team that's dedicated to doing this, and it is new for 2020, so it's important that you're aware of that. And then we are going to just jump real quickly into the Census Response Map, which is probably the most exciting thing that we've taken on in 2020, in my opinion. And that really is a up-to-date, live, automated experience of who's responding to the census and where. So I'm gonna see if I can stop sharing my current screen and get a new one up here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, is that Heather?
This is Heather. Hi. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to point out one thing, and we've went over the timeline, and obviously, yes, operations have been pushed back. But the census is self-response, which is awesome this year. I mean, I'm so glad this year they decided to put it online where people could respond online. And Nicholas just shared all those great phone numbers that you could call. The timelines move back, yes, but people can answer anytime. So we'll go over the self-response map, but then, maybe just talk about some ideas. I know Nicholas touched on it at the beginning, but that's where you guys are going to be huge. Wednesday, if you do Facebook posts or Facebook chats or get elected officials maybe if everyone can coordinate. Our colleague in a call earlier in one of her counties, they're all coordinating a post to do at 10 a.m. Because what hasn't changed is the date that we turn the information over to the president. And so we have to keep collecting. I'm a little concerned about our workers right now because they keep pushing it back, which means the door-to-door folks are going to have a smaller time frame. And let's just face it, we may lose a couple of, some because of the time frame. We might gain some because people need employment. I don't know, but the more we can have respond early and online is wonderful. Makes everything run a lot smoother. And what Nicholas is going to show you now, once you get checking this every day, I'll tell you, it becomes a little addicting because then you're going to want to see your numbers, your self-response numbers move up. So this is a real fun tool he's going to show you that you can use as you're going to target and see where people are answering and where they're not. So sorry, I just wanted to get that in.
That was a great addition, Heather. I really appreciate you reminding me to reiterate the self-response is new, and it is a huge success for us to be able to promote that with our partners, especially because, since March 12th, individuals have been able to respond online and via phone. So the paper questionnaires haven't been sent out for most of the population, but they will be shortly if people don't respond. But phone and online are certainly ready to go right now. So I am going to, everybody can see my my Explorer page or my Chrome browser here, I hope.
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So I'm just taking you to our census webpage, and obviously we have ongoing surveys and operations apart from the decennial census. It just happens to be the primary focus of today's conversation and the one that's constitutionally mandated. So I'm gonna, because this is oftentimes where you'll be landing on when you type in census on obviously on the website, but you want to direct individuals to 2020census.gov. You can get there from the other page, but it just takes a little maneuvering. So this is obviously a website you've probably all been very familiar with over the last couple of months. It's adjusted daily, if not more than daily, and certainly it's a great way to direct people to find out information, assure them on the confidentiality pieces and you know, the Title 13 piece about it being protected under US code and things of that sort. That's all here. So anytime you have questions, I would always encourage you and your community to start on this page. However, for partners, we do have a lot of material available. This is all available for the public, so it's not contingent on whether or not you've become a partner with us, but it just is providing an opportunity for us to segment a part of our website for partners specifically. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page here, you can actually see a map or a box that'll take you to a map called response rates. You can certainly just type this into your URL or your address bar up here, or even Google 2020 Census Response Rates, and it'll take you here. This is a really great map. It is automated and updated every 24 hours. As you can see down here, the last update was 3/29 at 12 a.m., so just last evening. And as Heather mentioned, and this is certainly something that I find myself doing and encouraging partners to do, is check it periodically, because you will find that there's a lot of updates that happen overnight, and you know, significant jump in response rates. And I think Thursday or Friday last week we're at 27% in Indiana, maybe even lower. You know, now we're close to 37%. So we're certainly pretty high as it compares to the national average, but we have obviously a long way to go, 73% or so left to really get everybody responding. You can drill down over here, and this is a pretty small window, but we can try to expand this a little bit here. You can also look at certain dates on the drop down. You can look at total response, that would be the questionnaire assistance lines on the phone, or you can look at, which would include the phone and the internet, excuse me, or you can look at just internet. And then you can also look at different geographies here. We're going to just take a look at a county, and I'm going to look at Tippecanoe County just because I know that Lafayette is probably making up the majority of the call today. And so we'll go into, here we are. Where is it? Right there, right? There we go. Yeah, I'm not a Hoosier by birth, so it took me a couple of minutes there. So you can see Tippecanoe County has a total response of 36.4, internet response of 36.1, and below that you can also see a final 2010 self-response rate of 70.7. So it gives you some perspective on how you've done historically. You can certainly continue moving further in. So if you wanted to take a specific city in Tippecanoe, we can even isolate that to a city or a census tract. So we'll have to go back to the whole map, but we can go, let's just scroll all the way down to Lafayette here.
We have Munster with us if you want to look at Munster.
Oh, sure, we can do Munster.
Sorry, Wendy, maybe that's not a good thing.
Yeah, so here we are. Here's Munster is already at 44 or 45.4%. So tremendous response from Munster so far. That's well above the national average by about 12%. So way to go, Munster. I know that if you also want to look at individual census tracts, you might find that some of the folks in the community are responding higher than others, and this is a way to kind of look at that. So you have in one census tract 42.2, another you have 43.5, so relatively the same, approximately. And as you get further south, it looks like they have an even higher chance of responding. So that's good. That's good news. So down here you can see a color-coded rate legend. Obviously, the paler it is, all the way up until the blue here. Well, from orange to blue. Everybody can read a map. I don't have to walk you through that. But basically, you can determine what the response rate is by the color. And as you're hovering over each of these tracks or any of the geographies that you select, you can get a blowout in terms of what the representation is. There's also a great way that you can share this on social media. So you can go down here, you can download it, and you can select a file format of an image or a PDF or a PowerPoint. And we can do an image here for Munster. And who's on the line for Munster? Is that, you said Wendy?
Yes.
Great. So Wendy, I can send this to you so you can see it, but obviously this is just one census tract that we've isolated. Hopefully, well, you probably can't see that. I just popped into another window, but I can send that to you so you can see it. But I imagine most of you have used these sorts of maps before and can find it relatively easy to navigate. So, but it would be important to share with your constituents and those that are receiving any community programming from you, especially as we know some communities around the state are not responding as well as Munster is. So why don't we take another peek at another city or another geography that anybody be interested in looking at?
Well, we have Indianapolis with us, which might be interesting from a census tract. There should be a little more variation, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So we are just going to look at city for Indianapolis. So they have a 33.6 self-response rate. According to the look compared to Indiana. Indiana's at 36.7, so slightly less, but we can certainly drill down and see. This may be, actually, there was another Indy pull down. I think maybe that was like the city center. What does it say? Gallups. Oh, that's probably the broader metropolitan area, right? I've not actually looked at Indy yet, so bear with me here. I think I've broken the map. Let's go back to the other one. My apologies. Okay, so we can look at an individual census tract for sure and kind of break it down from there.
So Heather says if you hover over the area, it will come up. Somebody asked about the census tract. It will come up and you can also choose the census tract feature.
Oh, okay, good to know. So as it's loading, we'll just kind of make sure you're familiar with how to get here again. You can go to 2020census.gov and click on partners and scroll all the way down to response rates, or the most simple way to do it would just be to Google 2020 Census Response Rates, and it should take you right here. But we will send out the link to this after the call. We can certainly spend more time on this, but I want to maybe just shift our focus if I can, and Heather, you can certainly jump in and add some information to this, but I want to at least talk a little bit about ways that you can motivate your communities and constituents to respond, especially now that we're reliant almost entirely on digital communications. How can we, since we're prioritizing public gatherings and promoting census in different events around the state, what do you think would be a good way to kind of take the next at least month forward in promoting digital engagement with the census? So I'll maybe just turn that over to you, Tamara, to facilitate it. I don't know if there's anybody that already has some ideas popping up on chat, but it would be good to.
Well, you have a couple. There's a couple of questions on chat. Maybe Tamara could.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So I think one thing, and I saw quite a bit of this, Cindy was responding as a good partner on Facebook to some questions earlier that I saw because we're friends on Facebook. But Lupe also asked, what impact on population counts in college towns potentially is impacted by the absence of students? And so for those of us that have colleges or universities in our town, how might we handle that? And if you'll kind of just go through the policy as well.
Okay, so spend some time talking about what the impact is of COVID-19 on college counts. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yeah. So I think that Cindy was helping people understand that you do need to count, or that student needs to be counted in their college if they live in their college town. And then what does that mean as our students have basically moved out before April 1st? Right.
Okay. So great question. I did anticipate this, but let me take you down to, and you probably have already seen this again, but just for those that haven't, we do have news that are coming out both on our census main page as well as the 2020 census landing page here. And we want to make sure that everybody's aware of what the impact is for college students in college towns for sure. So I'm having trouble walking and chewing up at the same time, but let me see if I can find that for you, because we just have sent this out. Bear with me one second.
Are you still there, Nicholas?
I am. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
having
I just
difficulty
wanted to make
finding
sure.
our new. Yeah. I apologize. One second. I'm still getting used to Zoom.
So this is Cindy, and while we're waiting on Nicholas, I'll share a couple of things. I think it's important for all of us to hear information, because the questions come from the town, are coming from the parents of those college students who have moved those kids home, and they might not understand that they still need to be counted where they had been in college. So it pertains, even if you don't have a university in your area that you're promoting. It's just as applicable to those communities where kids have moved home temporarily. And it is a hot topic right now. Or it was on my Facebook thread.
You did a great job of responding to it kindly.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy, but it's okay. I mean, I get it, but I just want people to have the directive from the Census Bureau and abide by that as much as they can, because there are ramifications when they don't.
Well, and I think that Marianne brings up another question to that point. I guess the UK census used interviews and listed each person at one point in time, like a specific Sunday evening in April. How does the US avoid double counting of like children who are co-parented? And I know when we took the census, there was a question in there about co-parenting or people that lived with you part of the time, but maybe you can explain that a little bit better, Nicholas.
Absolutely. So I think I've dropped off of Zoom, but as soon as I get back on, I will be glad to answer that. Or Heather, if you want to take a stab at that while I
We
reconnect
see you
here.
on there.
I got kicked off. No.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
So while we're waiting for them, I think one of the points to make is that children were undercounted 10 years ago. So it's so important to get them counted. I don't work for the Census Bureau, but we've heard that message so much over the past several months, and the schools have been great partners. I assume in every community, and of course the funding piece is so relevant to them to make sure that they get accurate counts in the communities where they are. But I find that the school corporations in our particular county are doing an excellent job promoting the census. And Purdue Extension is a great partner with our schools in almost all of our program areas. So where we can be sending a message out to our school corporations to be including census, the statistics in schools piece in their e-learning lesson plans is so important. And they've all the ones I have talked to either are already doing it or planning to do it. And we're excited at the opportunity to promote the census through e-learning.
And do they do that as kind of an assignment in e-learning or just a notice?
Oh yeah, yeah, they can speak to it better. So statistics in schools is all related to the, what do you call those? The expectations that are in the core for all the
standards.
Standards, thank you. Yeah, so there's tons of great information there. And the teachers, some teachers get more excited about it than other statistics, but it's great stuff. So just adds one more fun thing for them to add to e-learning, and it helps get
Absolutely
them aware, especially the parents.
So one thing you mentioned, and I apologize, this is Cindy, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping in and talking a little bit about that. So in 2010, children between the ages of 0 and 5 were uncounted by 1 million in the country. So that is a great reminder of how important children are. children tend to be overlooked in many situations, so it is important that we stress, above all, there's certainly a lot of key demographics that we try to make sure people are aware of, but children tend to fly pretty high on the radar because of the undercount 2010. So it looks like I'm just now joining back on with Zoom, so just bear with me 30 seconds and I should be live to be able to go on.
Doug asked if you can edit your census information after you've submitted it, or is it locked down?
So once it's submitted, it is submitted. It's complete.
Okay.
So
And
the answer would be no.
I got kicked off too.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going
That's
on
okay.
today.
No, it's not you. No, it's good. I just didn't want you guys to think I was just not sitting here, not answering.
Well, so while you're still doing that, I know that, you know, some people talked about physical postcards they were going to send out through school, realize that most schools are still doing food deliveries, so there might be an opportunity to do that way. Somebody mentioned early on that they're planning on, or that they're putting it into utility bills, which is a great way to get it out in a town that provides utilities, or on any sort of mailing. And I will say I've seen a lot of great social media coming out of Cass County. It's funny, we had them on a call earlier today as well. But just some really cool graphics and social media posts from them. And they've kind of been posting that response rate map since it came up, you know, encouraging the community to up their response rate. So I think that's a cool tool to be able to use for promotion as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. They're actually one of my counties, and they have been so much fun to work with. I mean, they have a great group there that's working on this, and it's put a lot of work into it, so that's great to hear.
Yes, yeah, they are a lot of fun to work with. I've worked with them on a few different things. So, and Cindy, I've seen you posting response rates as well, and so that seems to be something that your community is responding to as well.
I hope so. Our rates are good. I hope so. It's I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I feel like people being, you know, sheltering in place has, I hope, given people more time to think about it and take the time to respond. So it's all good. We just want to get.
I think Nicholas is still trying to get to where you can share screens again, but are there other?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to take a minute to let everybody else finish their thoughts there. So I'm not able to share because I'm not a co-host any longer.
Oh,
and I also,
I'm sorry.
Since I got dropped, I think there was several comments and questions that I do not have access to. So, and now it looks like it's wanting to drop me again. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Well, it also won't let me make you a co-host, so I don't know what is happening. Can I make Heather a co-host? Would that help at all?
It's fine on my end. I'm just not sure if she's ready to do that. So I can walk you through the fact sheet and I can send it out in lieu of being able to share it. It looks like it's just Zooming. I mean, it's connecting on Zoom. I'm not sure what the technical term is that. I have a spiral and it's saying it's wanting to connect. So the tagline of this fact sheet is really just whether you live on or off campus or at home with family, you need to be counted in the 2020 census. You should count yourself where you live and sleep most of the time, even if you're temporarily staying elsewhere. So this is a new fact sheet that I'll send out to you because it makes sure that even if you're temporarily staying at friend's house or family's house during the shelter-in-place MO that we're all kind of following here, you need to count yourself where you live normally. If you're a college student, it does talk about that. Yeah, I'm not getting back on Zoom. It's disconnecting me for some reason. So in student housing facilities, things of that sort. So they need to be counted if they live the majority of the time on the campus or at a rental home or apartment near campus, but they're temporarily staying away from that location, then they still need to be counted there. where they stay normally, even if they're staying elsewhere on April 1st.
Okay. I also, Cherish had asked about Marion County. Unfortunately, we can't show that anymore, but are you able to see Marion County and exclude cities in the county when you look at the response rate map? Do you know, or have you played with it that much, Nicholas?
Yes, you can. You're not going to be able to exclude them from the overall count because they are going to make up a part of the count, obviously. But in terms of the view on the response map rate, response rate map, you'll be able to see Marion County. It looks like I'm able to join in through the web browser. So let me see if I can. I've already phone called in, so okay. Sorry, I don't know why this is not liking me for some reason. Yeah, I can't share.
I'm making you co-host right now.
On here.
Oh,
here we
no,
go.
you may not be able to.
Yeah, it's not allowing me on any other format but the web browser. I'm not sure what that is about. So I apologize for that. I don't know if it's my connection or yours, but certainly not very ideal. So you can look at individual counties in the response rate map and isolate the responses for that county. In fact, if you want me to take a look at Marion County, I could certainly do that on the call here and just give you an idea of where you are. I know there was another question about double counting. So we have multiple ways. That was the question, right? How do you ensure?
Yeah, about like children that are co-parented or people that might live in two locations.
So if you've responded to the census, there's actual names, date of birth, and locations. And there's also questions on there about whether or not anybody that was included on your questionnaire lives or stays somewhere else part of the time. And so as you're answering those questions, those are all allowing us to verify and validate whether or not that person should be counted somewhere else. We do have a lot of cross measures in place to avoid duplication. Certainly with any statistics, as everybody knows, there are margin of error, allowances that we have in place, but they're minimal, if any. And so there's a lot of verification that we have in place that prevents duplication. So the short answer is we have measures in place to prevent that. But there's a lot of databases that are cross-compared to make sure that we do that appropriately.
While you're trying to look up Marion, yeah, I think so. While you're trying to look up Marion County, I was just going to ask for our other local government officials out there, or extension educators, are there other creative ways in which you're promoting the census right now?
So one of the things, Cindy again, so one of the things that our partnership specialist encouraged me to do, and I'm a complete count committee, and so that's a little bit different, is to engage the faith community, since they're doing online services and lots of social media sharing of information for their followers. There's a whole toolkit you can send. There's just ways to engage the churches, since we've seen, especially I guess, since we've seen a shift to them being more on our social media platforms. That is a thought. I know our radio stations locally are doing, we always do a kind of a free PSA live call-in the morning that you can get on with the radio station. So for Census Day, that's something I'm doing locally, is getting on the local radio station to talk about the census. And that's something you can do remotely as another way to promote it. The faith, going the direction of the faith community, that's been helpful. We're in our county, because we have a large immigrant population, either from Haiti or Spanish-speaking countries. And so I've used especially our Catholic community to communicate with the Spanish-speaking population. I did have our partnership specialist break down the language responses, and we're still pretty low there, but I don't know that surprises us, but that's, I also asked the priest who speaks Spanish to convey to the Spanish-speaking community that if they choose not to respond, someone will be coming to their door in the next several months. And so to me, that might be as scary as the thought of responding. So that was information that I made sure he understood kind of the timeline and the steps that would occur, so they would be informed of what those folks coming door to door, you know, what they're doing.
And that's certainly a huge benefit. Cindy, I really appreciate you mentioning that, because, you know, one of the things that we try to really stress is the fact that trusted voices from communities, whether they be faith leaders or those that represent the Latino community or those in a particular demographic, that we know that there aren't a lot of, you know, that there isn't a lot of history of trust of the federal government. We really do need to prioritize those trusted voices really sharing the message from their own, in their own language, from their own pulpit or from their own congregation. It's really very important that that's the way that we kind of go forward as well. So those methods that you mentioned are fantastic. I did get back on, so I don't know if Tamara, you can help me get to share my screen. There, looks like I'm on. So let me just locate the response rate map again, and we can kind of take it from there. I do apologize about the unruly noise. I'm sure that everybody across the nation is experiencing interesting conference calls with children stuck at home going stir crazy.
That's quite all right.
I did want to make sure people saw, someone shared that they held an youth essay contest in February to engage youth and families in the census. That is awesome. That's a great idea. You know, any way we can engage families and get kids involved, and then they go home and say, hey, mom and dad, and talk about this, and that's nice. I'd love to read some of those essays. I bet they were great.
My kids wanted to start a hashtag where people would take the census in weird places and take a picture of them taking the census. They thought I just took it on. I took it on the computer at home, but Zane really thought that we should take it on the tram. I would sit on the trampoline and he would be jumping behind me. It's like, I'm not sure I can accurately fill it out that way, but.
All right, so I did
Nicholas,
pull up the counting. Oh, I'm good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nicholas. We want to get you
going
while you're.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm still on right before I get kicked off. So the counting college students, can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the most updated college sheets fact sheet that we have. College student fact sheet, March 26th here. So it talks a little bit about those different scenarios, and this is, I'm going to send out with the after our call, but it talks a lot about the nuance around our temporary relocation of, you know, massive amount of people because of COVID-19. So you can walk through these scenarios and make sure that those that are having questions read through this, and you know, they can find information, especially international students, college students that may be living off campus that are normally there. So I'll send this out to you, and please, if you're not already included in our news alerts, go on to 2020census.gov, and at the bottom you can find a way to stay up to date on the news that is coming out. And that's really key right now, especially because most of those updates are going to be directed at operational changes and updates according to COVID-19. There's a whole subsection in here about COVID-19 and how the census is responding. So you'll find a lot of great information. So please sign up if you haven't already done so. But those fact sheets that I directed you to are all available either on our 2020census.gov page or on the Census Bureau's main website. You can find all of the same information from 2020census.gov. It just may look different. So I'll send all this out after our call today. I did lose the other chat, the history of the chats. So I don't know, Tamara, if you can help me remember what we were also going to address. Heather, did you want to add anything else that I may have missed?
Well, just a couple things I was thinking. For one, I'm so glad you're showing the website and you directed folks to sign up for that, because, whoops. Hold on. Sorry. If you're on here, you probably have looked at the website, but I will tell you the census has done an excellent job with this website. If you haven't signed up, like Nicholas said, I actually, there's a lot of emails I get, as we all do, but I really love every email I get from the census because it's always something that is interesting and relevant and something that I can use or find interesting. And share with people. So I really encourage you to do that. Like he's pointed out several times as he's talked, all this information we're showing you is on this website and it's free. It's free to anybody, for anybody to use. So it's proved to be a great tool, as I'm sure if you're a partner, you already know, but you can definitely use it to direct people in your community to it and all that. One more thing I wanted to say, we've talked about the mailings, and of course, ideally, you're going to get a mailing. You're going to have that little number, that your unique ID number, they call it, and that's how it's going to work. What we don't want people to think is that if they don't get that mailing, they can't fill it out or they have to wait for that mailing. There is a way when you go to fill out your form, when you log onto the site, it will say something to the effect of, I don't have my unique ID number. All they have to do is click that, and it'll walk them through the census and they can fill it out. It'll ask them their address and stuff like that, and they can fill it out that way. And then when they get that, they can go ahead and throw that away. Or like Nicholas said, if someone tries to answer it twice, there are measures in place where that can't happen. But I do want everyone to know that they do not have to wait for that to fill it out, because we don't want people that maybe it got lost in the mail or somebody else picked it up and threw it away to think they have to wait to fill their form out.
And just because, this is what we're talking about, I do want to let you see, if you haven't responded to the census online, this is what it looks like. So it's my2020census.gov, and you start questionnaire, as Heather mentioned. This is what it's going to ask for, that 12-digit ID. You can click on this and just say, if you do not have your ID, you can click here, and it'll ask for some verification on where you're located, your name, and it'll try to make sure that they put you in the right spot in terms of the residence. So that's the way that you can click on that. And the other person's question at the beginning was, if you need to edit it, can you do so? No. Once you submit it, it is done. And that's we'll have to take that. There's obviously some ways that we can try to route questions to local area census office if there are enumerations or paper questionnaires that need to be adjusted or things of that sort. That process will certainly be easier to navigate once we have the area census offices back up and running, and especially when it comes to group quarters and things like that. Those will be a little bit more complicated than just the individual household. So certainly we'll have need for adjustments along those fronts, and can do so with that local area census office. But as it relates to individual households, once you submit it, it is complete.
We just have a minute or two. I did want to point out, early on, one of the libraries said that they were supposed to be a location that where people could come and fill out the census on their computers. And I know from talking to some of the libraries this morning that they're not exactly sure when they'll open back up. But I wanted to mention that I know some libraries that are offering Wi-Fi in their parking lot. People are parking to use Wi-Fi in the library, have started putting up signs. I know somebody emailed me that, encouraging people to take the census while they're using the Wi-Fi in the library parking lot. So maybe an idea for those of you that were planning on offering that and will be at least delayed in being able to do that.
Wow, that's great.
Nicholas or Heather, do you have anything left that you'd like to add?
I
would just encourage you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just thanking everyone for participating. Encourage you to just keep pushing it as much as you can through the outlets that we have available right now, all of us. Encourage everybody to be part of it, and know that it's a fluid situation, and we'll do it. Everybody will work hard to keep everyone up to speed, but anything you can do just to get it out to your communities is appreciated.
And I would echo that, Heather, and thanks for everybody's participation today and your partnership. I would lastly say if we can just continue encouraging each other with new ideas on how to promote the census, especially now when we know it's a critical importance, but there's certainly many limitations on connecting with people face to face. If there's ideas that you all have as a group to continue sharing those with each other, and if you hear of other ideas that are happening, I know that there's a lot of great innovative things that are happening across the country with partners that are doing things outside the box. So I think anything that we can do to kind of collectively put our heads together, of course not physically together, but virtually, to get the word out, we're both grateful for and supportive of. So anything you need from us or other partnership specialists across the state, we do represent a team of about 12 in Indiana. So we will send out a list of those staff and locations that they serve subsequent to this call, as I promised Tamara that I would do. So you can locate, if you haven't already started engaging with your partnership specialist in your area, you can at least locate them and reach out to make sure you stay up to date.
Thank you, Nicholas and Heather, both. And thank you everyone for bearing with some of the technology issues. This is recorded. Hopefully I'll be able to find the recording and we'll send that out, and I'll work with Nicholas to make sure we get all of those handouts and links and phone numbers sent out as well. So thank you so much and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.